Today on the show.
But if everybody required themselves to require success, they'll have it.
Michael Quarles, Part 2. Welcome to the Not Another Real Estate Investing Podcast. I'm Dan Riando. I'm joined by Brian Davis once again. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Danny. How you doing today?
I'm doing very, very well. How's the summer been going so far?
Oh, it's been good. What do we have going on? We have a trip coming up next week, the 4th. Pretty good. We spend a lot of time at the beach. We have a local lake that we go to. It's been going well. Weather's been good. I think the kids at home are driving my wife a little crazy. So she'd probably like them to get back to school sooner than later.
That's usually the complaint. Parents seem to really enjoy it for about the first 2 weeks after school. And then please let school start again.
Yeah, I get a dirty look every day I go to work. I go skipping out the door.
We're going to do part 2 of our interview with Michael Quarles, the real estate investor and marketer who really talked and dug deep into his kind of old school analog mailing strategy, which is what we dealt with in part 1. In part 2, he digs a little bit deeper into his digital marketing strategy as well as the way that he likes to set up deals. Can you, I know it's been a while since we recorded this, but anything come to mind about what you learned from this second part of the interview?
I think he talks about cluster marketing. I think that's a really cool strategy. It's a little different than what a lot of people talk about and teach. Yeah, recently we've been sending a lot of mail. It's really been helpful having that talk with Michael. Direct mail it might be old school analog, but it's still one of the best ways to get deals because you can determine who you're going to market to, and it's very targeted. You can sort out properties by their criteria, look for motivation, send out the mail, and it's expensive. These people aren't getting bombarded with direct mail pieces always. It depends what market you're in. But I think what Michael provides is really awesome value for any investor. And we're really making a push towards outbound direct mail marketing efforts and going to really make that a big part of our business.
Here's the second part of our interview with Michael Quarles.
If you were to just pick, say, one mail piece, which one do you think is the most effective?
Great question. Can I give you a couple different answers?
Let's go based on the list, I would say. Maybe we could split it up like that.
Okay. So it's going to be the same list either way. If I have my systems in place, then I want to send out the piece that's going to get me the most phone calls coming back at me. If I don't have my system set up, I want to send out the piece that's going to get me the least amount of phone calls, but the most amount of qualified phone calls. Mm-hmm. So if my systems are in place and I know how to manage them, then I'm going to send out the yellow naked letter or the yellow letter in an envelope. If I don't, if I'm not necessarily ready for that, because there's going to be a huge amount of phone calls coming back at that. Some of them are going to be upset sellers. Some of them, take me off your list sellers. Some of them, I want to sell my house today sellers. If I wasn't ready to receive all those phone calls and do something with it, then I would send out a small text postcard that says what we do and that we're ready to buy your house today. That's going to get me a few or a lot less phone calls. However, they're going to be stronger phone calls. And because I don't have systems in place, I don't have to worry about nurturing all the other folks that weren't ready yet. Because even the seller that says, take me off your list, will sell their house. And when they call us, we have something that's pretty magical that most people don't, and that's their phone number. In the old days, we had crisscross directories and phone books. We don't have those today. And so having a phone number is pretty valuable if you know what to do with it. But if you don't know what to do with it or don't have a system for it, then a small text postcard.
Yeah. So I think maybe transitioning into the system that somebody wants to set up. What are the most critical pieces to that, and what's really involved?
I'm biased. Let me tell you in advance that I absolutely am biased. This 4 or 5 years ago, I was using RingCentral for my phones, Infusionsoft for my CRM. I was using Easy Texting for my text platform. And I was using another service for my website chat. And so I was using several services, and then I was using several different services to put those together so they'd all speak to each other. Some of them did, some of them didn't. I got tired of systems not speaking to each other, so I created a company called Calltext. And so back to your what's the most critical component, in my opinion, it is systemizing the saving of information. And so with Calltext, if someone calls me, as an example, every time you called me or text me or emailed me, or if your staff did, it's all bundled together into my CRM. And I can attach tags to it. Tags are groups, naming a group. And based upon that group, I can now tell myself either to automatically do something or to physically do something. And without that component in today's life, in the world of the internet and web forms and texting and phone calls, we're kind of kidding ourselves if we think we're in business, because every phone call is an opportunity at some point in life. Someone's going to sell that house at some point. And being able to have a system in place that actually does outbound marketing for you automatically is pretty powerful. Just remembering to do something is pretty powerful. And most people don't have those things. They just write it down on a yellow pad, which is great. That's how we used to do it because we didn't have a computer system. But how many times did you write a phone number down for a prospect, forgot about it, went to find it, couldn't find it because you didn't know what page you wrote it on?
Right.
And there, where that opportunity was gone. And every time I buy a house, I know, that one that we just closed, that we doubled our money. We ended up, the net on that was in the 20s. Well, that phone call could have been worth $20,000. Well, the admission into Calltext, you can have a free account. So you can have all those CRMs and all the web forms and all the online chats and all the systemization for free, or you can use, there's other plans too. But the reality is our consumer these days, they're using Facebooks, they're using Google, they're using the internet, searching for opportunity to solve their problem. And if we don't have a system to manage it, like I said, I think we're insane.
Yeah. Hey, so a phone call comes into your system.
Right.
You obviously don't pick those up anymore, right?
No, we call them our Alexes. Our Alexes answer the phone. And they go through a script and they save the information inside the CRM. And once they hit save, it launches a series of actions that will take place back to the consumer. And if it's something that it gets past the Alex, meaning they qualified, then the Alex schedules a Ryan, who's a negotiator, who's going to negotiate that process. And once the Ryan it's under contract, then we have systems that follow that, and all the way down to the transaction coordinator.
Do you negotiate them over the phone, or do you go out and look at the property in person?
Yeah, everything's virtual. Yeah, we're not knocking on doors nowadays. Even if I buy in Bakersfield, which is where I live, the city I live in, I'm not going to go knock on a door. We don't need to say hello to a consumer. Amazon and Google have taught consumers that it's okay to buy over the internet. And in our case, they're selling over the internet, and they're fine with it. That originally, I said the best absentee owner was an absentee out of state, marching up to their depreciation schedule. Well, that person can't see us anyway because they're out of state, they're out of town, they're out of the city. So virtual works well. Well, the nice thing about virtual investing is, and direct mail and systemization is I can go into the hot city. Like right now, I know parts of Florida are pretty amazingly good, where some areas aren't. And the person that doesn't do virtual marketing, they're limited to their backyard. Well, the virtual market doesn't limit us to our backyard.
Right. So how do you handle access to a property?
So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get a BPO, so broker's price opinion. That's going to find me an agent in the local marketplace that I'm going to eventually hire to list the property in the MLS. So that person who's working for potential 6% of the transaction, they are now my boot. I'm also going to get a home inspection and appraisal to as my check and balance to make sure my contract price is valid. But that realtor, and in most cases it is a realtor over just an agent or a broker, is going to be the person that processes it. And realtors are trained to do those things. I mean, if you find an REO agent, who typically it's the REO agents that do the BPOs, they're trained to do the hustle work for the lenders that are foreclosed on a property. So that same realtor is going to be the one that does it for me.
Right.
And so they'll meet the seller, they'll meet the contractors, but I'm buying it as is. I'm not fixing it up. So the most that we'll do to a house is trash it out, if the market says we have to.
Is it
And
difficult?
a lot of the houses we have to, because I mean, people leave them in a disarray.
Is it difficult? Is it difficult to find a realtor, Michael? That
there's national companies out there that I can get a BPO for $150.
Yeah.
And some cities they're not serviced by this, some of the national companies.
Right.
But
I mean,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, to convince a realtor that you have it under contract and then they're going to relist it on the MLS and you're not the actual owner of record. Is that a tough sell sometimes for you?
50% of the time. Yeah. I mean, it's like going to a closing company and setting up a concurrent close. Some of them will say, we don't do those. You can't do those. Some of them will say, sure, no big deal. I find it, the more we know, the more likely that we're going to have success. So as an example, I had a coaching student who one of their jobs was, go find a title company and an escrow company to do a concurrent close. And he was buying subject to, and he kept coming back and he kept saying, well, everybody says they don't do subject to. And I said, well, we have scripts and all this kind of good stuff that they follow. And he just couldn't find one, but we needed to get this thing closed. And so I asked him to give me the number of the last one he called. And so I called them and I explained exactly what we needed to do. And they said, sure, we do those all the time. And that's the difference between someone who has experience and has confidence in knowing what they're doing and being able to explain the systems that we're using, and somebody who's not done it yet.
Right.
And so the person that's not done it yet will have a harder time being successful doing a concurrent close or listing before ownership.
Have you had any of your realtors that you've hired have to defend themselves with the board?
No. We always suggest that they take it to the first thing that they do is they call their broker, if they're not the broker, and confirm that they can. And then the second thing we always ask them to do is call the board of realtors and get their permission. And because it falls back to, we don't want anybody to do anything unethical or immoral or definitely illegal, and in that order, because something can be legal, but it's not ethically right. And no, we haven't had any pushback at all.
Hey, so beyond direct mail, are you doing anything else currently?
I like Google, and I like Facebook, and I like YouTube. I think there's 9 areas that we market, we use to market. So those 3 are pretty powerful. I like the motivated lead perspective of them. I don't like that most of them can't sell me a house because they don't have enough equity position. But I like the lead generation aspect of it, and like the faucet concept where I can turn it on and off. I like TV. I definitely like cold calling. I like center of influence marketing. I like texting. I'm not big on the silent ring. I think that's annoying. And there's some FCC rules on that people aren't following. So owning a phone company, you kind of know what the FCC wants us to do and doesn't want us to do. But the reality is, no matter where we get that phone, or wherever we get the prospect, we have to do something with it. So irrespective of how the phone, what causes the phone to ring, if we're not systemized, we're kidding ourselves. And so,
right.
But at the end of the day, the primary option for me is direct mail, because again, I know the prospect has the ability to sell me the house.
For Google, you're doing pay-per-click, right, I would imagine. But on Facebook, What types of advertising are you doing there?
Well, it's pretty much still kind of pay-per-click kind of thing, but not, I guess it's impressions. But one of the nice things about Facebook is that one of their filters that they allow for is the likelihood of selling or moving, I should say, buying a house, which most buyers are sellers. And so I like that component. So I don't see a lot of action off of the Facebook, but it's not an expensive product. So it does what I need it to do. It absolutely is a reinforcement, which I like, because I think brand awareness is important when you market. Although in my direct mail, I'm not using a brand awareness. The moment they call me on my phone, they're picking up the brand. So that brand is the stories being told back to them every time I make contact. So I like the brand awareness of Facebook, YouTube too. And same thing with TV. TV, most people won't do because it's too expensive. The commercials run me just to have them made or $1,000 a commercial. So that pretty much most of the time takes someone's budget, where once you start buying a lot of houses, and this is one of the best businesses someone can have, is an investment business. Once you buy enough houses, kind of sets you free.
Yeah. How much direct mail are you personally doing just for your own real estate?
About 70,000 pieces a month. And I like the number. It's the maximum that I can market in the markets that I'm marketing to at the moment.
And if you send out 70,000 pieces a month, what's that? How's that shake out?
So it's about 35 phone calls a day, and 35 phone calls ends up being up to 7 phone calls. So because we're doing up all of our follow-up. So 35 times 7 is a lot. But you have to mine your prospect.
Right. And when people call, they don't necessarily need to sell today, but they're calling you because they plan on selling sometime within the not too distant future, typically. And
as you know, as a broker, we know, every time a for sale sign goes up in a neighborhood, we know that 2 houses in that neighborhood are going to sell over the next 6 months. Most of the time, people use another broker, but so we know that action's happening. Well, that's a touch. My letter's a touch. Every time someone gets touched, they start thinking more and more and more about it. And every time they go now into the fast food convenience, not fast food, but the little fast stores, 7-Elevens, AMPMs, and then see a realtor magazine or a home magazine, that's another touch. They hear something on the news about real estate, that's another touch. Another letter is going to come back from me in a month, and that's going to be another touch. But in that same month period, after they've called me, they're going to get texts, a lot of texts, because I have their mobile phone number now, and my system automatically texts them back.
What are these
over a period of?
What do those follow-ups look like, Michael?
From a text perspective?
Yeah, just in general, the follow-up with people. What types of messages are you sending back?
So if it's a voice, we're just, hi, this is Michael. You called 7 days ago, 10 days ago, 15 days ago, showing interest in having a house you were hoping to sell. Do you now have a house you were hoping to sell? Because 7 days ago they didn't. So that's going to be the voice follow-up. The email follow-up, we have a series of 29 letters that we send out over 59 days. Those are, some of them are short letters, some of them are long letters, because the public, some people like short, some people like long, drawn out letters. The texts are, this is, and I'm not going to say the name of my business, probably not appropriate. And that you called 7 days ago, 10 days ago, 15 days ago, because everything's timed. We know when they did. If now's the time to sell your house, please give us a call back at this phone number. We do a lot of marketing where on our postcards and our commercials and pretty much everywhere, we're using our short code. So a short code is not a phone number, but an easy to remember number. Like my short code's 818181. And so we use words to have them respond to that word. We find that those prospects are strong because they're actually picking up their mobile device and are interested in something rather than picking up their mobile device and calling and saying, please take me off your list, which is a different type of prospect. And so the short codes work well for us. And we send back again a simple message if now's the time. And now is going to be the time whenever now's the time. And we stop calling them after 90 days because we don't want to worry about the do not call list. But as far as the follow-up, the first 90 days is strong. And then they're going to get a letter from me every month as long as they qualify. Because at the end of 6 months, I'm going to redo my list. Because enough people will have fallen off the list that don't make the list credible anymore from a cost-effective perspective. So I'm going to redo my market analysis or my algorithm. If it still holds that area is still something I should be marketing to, then I'll re-pull the list. Some people will stay on the list. Some people will move off of it based upon or either a refi or a sell. And so that 7th month, they're going to get the same piece of mail they got the first month, but they won't remember it because we don't remember what we don't need. We only remember what we need, which is why we don't remember that everybody else had the same car we just bought until we buy it. So I'm pretty organized and systemized. I think people often say that I'm a direct mail expert. I think I am. But I think more than that, I'm a systems expert. So if someone needed to learn how to set up systems, I think that's the most important thing. And they're pretty complicated, and simple at the same time. Complicated is in that you don't know where to start. But once you start, it evolves. And once you have them created, they're gold, because a good system run well is passive income. If you look at the passive world of how to make money, that's what systems are all about.
So as a coaching student, if somebody were to sign up with you, do you provide your students with a lot of those systems and an inside look at how you guys run your business and scale it and that sort of stuff?
Yep, absolutely. And that's, I think, the beauty is there are folks out there, a lot of really great trainers, and we will, someone asked me the other day is, when do you know you need a new trainer? Well, you're always going to need a new trainer because you're going to surpass them or they're going to leave you. Yeah, we teach them everything, and systemization is the key. The thing beyond systemization that's the most important, if you were going to go, now I'm systemized, now I know how to market. The next one is negotiation, which is where a lot of people fear is like, how do I make an offer? Well, we don't make offers, we accept offers. And the words that we use when we speak to a seller, most people are unfamiliar with embedded commands and positive and negative reinforcements and mimicking and pacing and neurolinguistics. And they're afraid of them because they've never heard those words and they've never been a salesperson or don't want to be a salesperson. But the reality is what we say to a seller is the difference between obtaining an agreement that is a win-win and fair situation for both parties or not. And once people learn it, typically they can accept a lower value offer than somebody else that doesn't know negotiation, because sellers want a leader, right? How many times have you met a seller that's a leader? They're not. They're followers. And so if we're a follower and a seller's a follower, very few things will get done. But if we understand negotiation and how to be a leader and show them the value of our service, then we can succeed.
Awesome. That's all great information, Michael. Hey, you gave us an hour. I really appreciate it.
Can I give you one more thing before you hang up on me?
Oh yeah, for sure. Please.
Okay. And I have started preaching this because I think there's value in it if someone understands it, and not everybody will. As a guy who's been on this earth for 56 years, not that I'm wise, absolutely not. But I have learned that the three words that a lot of folks use as they go through this journey of wealth creation and entrepreneurship, should be stricken from the vocabulary. And most people use the three words hope, want, and need. And I don't. And the reason I don't is because I want to require success. I don't want success. I don't want to need success. And I don't want to hope for success. I require it. So every action I take, I do on purpose. And I hope that, but if everybody required themselves to require success, they'll have it. But we get stuck real easy on wishing and wanting and hoping and needing, that we realize that we're using those words to keep us from obtaining.
You can learn more about Michael Quarles, his business, and listen to his podcast at his website, michaelquarles.com. The last name is spelled Quarles. That's all the time we have for this edition of the show. Thanks for joining. We'll be back next week with another program. In the meantime, please rate and review the podcast at Apple Podcasts. We'll see you next time.